Hey everyone, it's Shelby, the conservative bookworm. Today, number 8. Number 8 in my top 10 book list. So, getting right into it. Just checking to make sure my camera's straight. No. I think so. I'm not professional, so gets me. Okay, first up, 8 to 12-year-olds. This book is awesome. It's a classic. I know I keep coming back to classics, but what can I say? I mean, I like the classics. So this is a must, and I say that if you don't mind fairies or pirates or flying. Can you guess what I'm talking about? Peter Pan by J.M. Barrie, and I particularly like this version. I mean, it's the same story, but this edition has some beautiful illustrations by my favorite. If you look back a few videos, I can't remember which one it was, maybe 6, the one I talked about 7 daughters and 7 sons. Trina Shard-Hyman, one of my favorite illustrators, illustrates this book, and she does a beautiful job. They're so whimsical and fun. She just illustrates Peter Pan so well. So if you can find this edition, I'd highly recommend it. I haven't found an edition that I like as much as this one when it comes to just the illustrations and stuff, because it just adds a special magic to it. Peter Pan, everyone knows the story of Peter Pan, the little boy that never grows up. I think every kid kind of wants to be Peter Pan, you know, flying and having fun at Neverland all the time and not growing up. I was one of those kids who didn't want to grow up because I saw my parents and I saw there was so much more work when you grow up. I don't regret growing up, by the way, but every kid, I think, gets to that stage where they're just like, I don't think I want to grow up. No. Okay, so, age 12, Peter Pan. Next, for 13 to 15, Little Women. And then there's the counterpart, Little Men, which you could do that if you're the boy reading this. Louisa Alcott is for boys too. Maybe just this one, Little Men, but still, it's a lot of fun. There's bunch of boys in this. Bunch of just mischief and fun, clean, good fun. Each chapter is like a different story. There's some more serious things, like some of the kids lose. There's some dealing with lying, dealing with the loss of a parent. But it's so many moral, good, just wholesome stuff in Little Women and Little Men. I'm unfortunately finding that a lot of kids these days don't relate to Little Women or Little Men or like the books as much as I loved the books. I mean, it wasn't like there was a whole lot to relate to as far as the time. I mean, this was in the late 1800s, the Civil War era book. Lots changed, but it was just something about just the sweetness and the wholesomeness and the morality, and just they weren't trying to grow up too soon, you know. Maybe they weren't having amazing adventures, but neither was I. I'm just a little girl growing up, in a little neighborhood. So I don't know. I love these books. Anything Louisa Alcott, I love. There's a whole other series that she's done. I suggest if you're a girl, you can find all sorts of. Probably the only boy one Louisa Alcott did that a boy could read and relate to is Little Men. But all the other books that she writes are amazing. I love them. And then last but not least is my 16 to 18 category, and that is An Acceptable Time by Madeleine Long. So she's the one that wrote A Wrinkle in Time, which I'm going to talk about in my next video as one of my favorites. An Acceptable Time is kind of she didn't really write. Well, Wrinkle in Time does have a couple of sequels, but this is still in that series. About time, about I don't know, cross space and time. I'm gonna say it's older because there's the characters are older. They're in their late teens. There is talk of human sacrifice. Doesn't happen, but they just talk of it. And then there's a little bit of romance, but nothing. I think they might kiss once. It's kind of like a tragic romance. Not because anyone dies, but because the guy that she's interested in lived a couple couple of thousand years ago. So that's a problem. So it's really interesting just like thinking about the time aspect. A little bit of talk about like angels and religion, not like there are angels, but just kind of talks about it a little bit. This author, if you know anything about Madeleine L'Angle, she isn't afraid to kind of bring up religion a little bit, but she had her own ideas that she kind of brings into her books. Nothing particularly blasphemous necessarily, or like blasphemous, but like not in this book, but I remember reading one of hers, I can't remember the name of it, but it's related to the Wrinkle in Time series, and it has a lot to do with like Noah, and that one I don't agree with, and I wouldn't suggest. If you have any respect for the Bible, then I wouldn't suggest that one, because it might be confusing for a child, because her version of the Noah story is a little weird. It's just her ideas, I guess, about how people were able to live so long back then. It's like they were able to because God allowed them to. Anyway, whole other topic, all that stuff. Anyway, so this book is really good, and it's one of my favorites, An Acceptable Time by Madeleine L'Angle for 16 to 18. So those are my suggestions, and I hope those are helpful to you and for your kids. Thanks. Bye.